Well, hi there, South Fellowship Church. This is Ryan Paulson, lead pastor, and we're here for our video on Matthew chapter 7, verses 7 through 12. And just got done preaching this, and I'm excited to just share a few follow-up thoughts with you. And if you have read this passage before, my guess is you've always thought that it was about prayer. So let's just jump right in, and then there's really just two things that I want to focus on and point out. So remember, Jesus has just gotten done talking about pearls and pigs, or really, like we could say, wisdom. Like, what does it look like to live in the world in a way where we give people valuable things that they can actually receive? A pearl is good, but a pig can't do anything with it. So how do we become people that give people what they really receive, what they can receive, and what is useful to them? Now that is verse 6 that follows it, and it flows right in to this text that Jesus begins, and he says this: "Ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives, and the one who seeks finds. To the one who knocks, the door will be opened." Well, here's the question I want to ask. Ask who? Seek who? Knock at whose door? That's the question. And if we follow the line of thinking from verse 6 that talked about judgment, and verse 1 that talked about judgment, I think what Jesus is saying is actually pretty clear. He's saying, instead of judging people, ask them. Instead of judging them, seek them. Instead of judging them, knock and ask to be invited into their life. I think these are all set in contrast to judgment, and they're all in ascending order of proximity. So when someone's right next to you, ask them. If they're distant from you, seek them out. If there's a wall between you or a door between you, knock and ask to be invited in. So Jesus then goes on, and he says this: "Which of you asks, if your son asks for bread, will give him a stone?" No one. No one who's normal. "Or if he asks for a fish, will give him a steak?" No one. Now, there are outliers. There are evil fathers who do terrible things to their kids. But I do think that the outlier only goes to prove Jesus's point. That even when we see that and we're imperfect or evil, we recognize that that's wrong. It proves Jesus's point. If he asks for a fish, we'll give him a snake. If you then are evil, or though you are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good gifts to those who ask him? See, Jesus is making a point. He's actually illustrating, I think, the principle of asking, seeking, and knocking, and he's using the illustration of prayer. And he's saying this is how we stand in the world. This is the power of asking. It works with God. It works with others. That's the power of seeking. It works with God. It works with others. It's the power of knocking. It works with God. It works with others. He's illustrating how powerful it is to ask instead of impose, to seek instead of ignore, and to knock instead of forcing our way in. And then he ends with this, and I think this is probably the most important insight in this text. He ends with this word, so. If you are in the Greek, it'd be the word un. Un. And it's this really interesting word. It means therefore. So I'm confident in saying I don't think the asking, seeking, and knocking is about our approach to God solely, or even primarily in this passage, but rather about others because of this word. So whatever Jesus has just said about asking, seeking, knocking, and about prayer, or intercession as we might call it, it needs to apply to the way that we treat other people. So, or therefore, in light of this asking, seeking, knocking, in light of prayer, do everything, do to others as you would have them do to you. for this sums up the law and the prophets. So the way that we treat others, this therefore is set in context or in contrast to judgment versus love. That's the whole section. The whole section is about judgment versus love. And in between, Jesus gives us some practices, some things that we can do. Ask, seek, knock, pray, so that we will do love instead of judgment. It's the power of one word. I think I've read 5 or 6 commentaries on it, and most of them said these are disconnected thoughts, this thought, and this thought, about just sort of shotgun Jesus giving random bits of wisdom. But I think if we actually pay attention to what's going on in the text and we open up our mind a little bit and say, man, this therefore is really important, or this word so is really important because it connects everything. There is a clear thread to pull throughout this entire text about how we treat the people around us. And it requires that we treat them humbly and that we approach God confidently, because he hears us and he cares, so that we can then love in his way. Okay, I hope that helps. God bless you as you continue to study the scriptures. Thanks.